तो जो फेब्रुअरी में रोजे की है ना।
Ji, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So we've been discussing trauma healing and talking about self-care also. And these are all connected because agar hum Quran पढ़ रहे हैं, तो we have to, the benefit first should be to ourselves. And that is when we know that we're on the right track. So what is the purpose of our learning if we are not going to see any change in ourselves? So self-care is very important to understand what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and to develop a discipline about that. So that system is very important. Secondly, then we have to keep ourselves protected and keep ourselves away from things that are harmful. And that is for each person, it's different because of your disposition, because of your nature, because of your capacity of how much you can handle, how much you can take in. That sensitivity is different for every individual. And based on that, you have to set your limits for yourself. And our culture doesn't allow that. We are expected to go beyond, over and above our limits to be compensating for a lot of things, which is wrong. Allah Ta'ala doesn't ask us to do that. So again, the purpose of learning directly from Quran is to understand that we are here to serve Allah. We are not here to serve people, not here to serve society, the norms, the culture. We are we are there, they are part of our lives, but we have to decide based on what works for us and what does not work for us, that we have to serve Allah only. And in doing that, when we learn from Quran that this is not a requirement, this is not what is going to please Allah, then we can easily let go of it. And that is the change that we are required to make, because we take burdens upon ourselves which we are not required to take. And then, of course, we are left exhausted. We are left with so much of pent up emotions and energy drain, and then we're not able to do the things that we are actually required to do. Because whenever we have lost all that capacity and energy, it's not an unlimited resource with us. So when we are giving attention, focus, and energy to something which is useless, or rather giving us more trouble, then we are taking away from something which we are supposed to be doing. And that is what we are learning, that first of all, things that are taking away our energy and actually causing us unrest, causing us lack of peace and stress, anxiety, etc., block ourselves from them, and try to find ways where we can navigate through things without having to deal with such things and such situations, and then build ourselves in ways, our capacity in ways that we can serve Allah better, because that is where our true happiness lies. We're not going to feel calm and peaceful and accomplished unless we do the things that we are required to be doing, because Allah hasn't made us without purpose. So we have to give meaning to our life.
Serving Allah, doesn't it also mean serving man?
Serving man, exactly, Ji. That is what it means, serving humanity. Serving, coming, being of service to people, but there is a difference. When people are asking you to do things for their advantage, or you're actually doing it for the welfare of everyone, there is a difference. So you don't want to be used by people. And that is what exhausts you. You may think that you're being nice and kind. This is the discernment that this message brings to us, that you may be thinking that you are being very loving and you're being very accommodating and very kind to people, but it is just that group of people who are continuously taking advantage of you. That is not service to humanity, because they drain you by taking all your energy away from you for their tasks, which they can do themselves. But they put it on you because you're available. And that is when you understand and realize that you have to put a stop, because in relationships, it has to be bilateral. Will they go out of their way to do the same for you if required? That is the question you have to ask. Then only do so much. Otherwise, you are enabling them, and actually, they don't stand up themselves to do those things. We see that in our culture for children also. because we do so many things for them that our children don't have the ability to do it for themselves. They are grown up, little children, Assalamu alaikum. They grow up, like especially for men, everybody now, all psychologists are saying man-child, because they have grown up, but they're still behaving like children, mama's boys. Why? Why can't they make their own decisions? Because to make decisions, they need to be experiencing life the right way. And if they're not allowed to experience life, make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, face the consequences of their lives, of their actions, then obviously they're not going to grow up to be mature men. And that is the problem begins, where the problem starts. So we should not just be watching out that we are doing everything nice. Are we facilitating other people in things that they should be doing themselves? Then that is the responsibility you are wrongfully taking on yourselves. That is not the right way. That is the wrong way, because Allah has not put that burden on us, which we can't bear or which we can't take anybody's burden. But we end up doing that because culturally we've been trained to do that. And that is all women, will agree, because as daughters or as sisters, as mothers, as wives, we are taking, the burden of the entire family, which is not right. Every person has to be taking their own load individually. And that is the only way they will grow up and stand for themselves. And that is why we have a problem that people can't take a stand for themselves when they have to do. They may do it in certain ways, but they can't do it in every way. So this is something that we have to understand, that love, compassion, kindness, they're all very good things, but they have to be within limits and they have to be according to the situation. Not every time and not everywhere and not with everyone. You have to set a boundary to keep equal terms also. Like with friends also, friends can't take advantage. If you are doing something, they will do something in return. And that is the kind of, in different ways. And that is mutual respect, and bilateral relationships is what keeps the balance going. Otherwise, we have givers and we have takers. And the givers keep giving and keep suffering, and they don't have any ways of filling their own cup. And the takers don't know their limits, and they keep asking and they keep taking. So this is the shift of the balance. There is no balance. And this is what causes a lot of suppression of emotions. And that's where we feel that there is too much burden being carried by a group of people and too much easy way out for the rest of the people. So here, and that, can't continue for too long, because the next generation that is coming is reacting to it. They have seen that in the previous generation and they don't want to repeat it. And that's why the young girls who are now ready to get married or are married already, they're setting boundaries and limits that they're not going to be moms of everybody and like as if they're children. So people who are grown up have to manage for themselves. Okay. So we keep asking. We keep asking ourselves, what can we do, or how can we make things better, or after this, going through understanding things that you have been through, or generationally things, hurting things or suffering that has been passed on to you, pain that has been passed on to you. You can only change it when you change the patterns. If you don't change the patterns and the norms that are acceptable and just done on auto, you're not going to change the results. So we have to learn from Quran what is required of us and what is not required of us. So don't overdo, because we are not pleasing Allah then. Because if we are trying to be saying, oh no, I can handle this also and I can take this responsibility, then Allah says, okay, you take that responsibility. Take the burden. then handle the consequences, then don't complain. We can't do all of this. So if we complain that it's too much, then we have to see what is extra. And that extra has to be identified from Quran, checked from the lens of Quran, and then handled so as it is addressed that we are not taking care of this part, because this is not our load to carry. And especially as you grow older, because you can't take more, you have to take care of yourself, and then others have to take care of you, rather than you continue to take care of everyone else as per the pattern. So the change is very important, and to fulfill our purpose, we have to have that capacity to serve Allah and the energy to serve Allah if we have to do the right things. And for that, we have to prepare ourselves, because Quran, Islam is not just about listening and understanding and bringing calm to you and feeling good. That is level 1. After that, it is a call for action. It is activism, and you have to live by it. And that is when you are actually serving the true purpose of your learning and the true purpose of being the human that you were sent as, because Allah has given us the strengths and the abilities to do a lot of things that kind of we put aside because we have demands from everyone else. So unless we do the things that are that we were sent to be doing, first we have to explore that, discover that, and then be doing those things. And that's when we are going to reach true happiness and true peace, and be satisfied with ourselves that we have done something worthwhile in this world. And that's when we are always feeling ready that, yes, we don't have any burden, and we can go back to Allah and feel that we have done our job. So, Surah 5, Ayat number 7 and 8. I'll start from there. Ji, Surah 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayat number 7 and 8. Waskuru ni'matallahi alaykum, and call in remembrance the favor of Allah on you. Wa misaqatul lazi wasakakum bihi, and his covenant which he ratified with you. Is kultum, jab tumne kaha, when you said, Samyana wa atana, we hear and we obey. So we don't just hear, we hear and we obey. These are two things that whenever we are reminded of the covenant that we have with Allah Ta'ala, we say we hear and we obey. Wattaqullaha, and be mindful of Allah. Inna Allaha alimum bizatis sudur. Indeed, Allah is all knowing of what is in your hearts. So with true intention, we have to make a commitment to not just hear, but to also act. So we are going to now obey accordingly. That is our intention and commitment. Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu, O people who believe, kunu kawamina lillahi, stand firmly for Allah, shuhada'a bil qist, as witnesses to fair dealing. So fair dealing in every area. Fair dealing for ourselves also. Do not allow any unfair dealing to yourself. So every time there is something that, somebody is being mean to you or pushing you around, you have to see this is unfair to you. So you have to raise your voice, or at least express that this was not right. And the same thing you have to do for others also. So in one ayat, Allah explains everything. Do not allow anything unfair that is happening around you. Don't let it pass. Don't ignore, because there is so much wrong happening. And at least the areas where you can have a say. Sometimes we are, in a situation where we can't say anything, or people are not listening, those who are around us, or a lot of other things. So yes, of course, we can't say much about that. But there are situations where we can have a say. So what happens that we come into a mental stagnation, about a certain thing. Nothing is going to happen, so why do this also? That is not right. So wherever you have the authority or the ability or an opportunity to set something right, please do that. Because it is with little, little things that we gain that confidence and that strength and ability to do it in situations which are more complicated. So if we are not going to start from small, doable actions, we'll never reach that level where it's going to, well, when we can handle the tough situations. And the tough situations will come. The point is that they are there in your way. Now, either you train yourself to be able to handle them, or we just sit and think that they're going to pass, but they're not going to pass. They will be in our way, and then they're going to hurt us. They're going to make us sad. They're going to make us suffer or feel the pain. So that it's very simple, like every other situation in life. How do we prepare for it? We train for it. The same thing we do in our lives also for anything, that whatever comes towards us, we can't just say everything good should happen to us. Allah Ta'ala sends both situations for our correction, for our growth, for our wisdom, so that we learn some lessons. Where we are, we have not learned them through good times, we've learned them through bad times, because that is how we were able to navigate through them. And after coming out of those bad times, we learn that this was, the lesson, and this is how we are supposed to behave. And we, see what was the mistake and how we should learn to behave in future. So the same way, but when you have the book with you, then you have to train, and then you have to prepare yourself. And that is when things become easier for you. So the same thing would be very difficult otherwise, but when you are attached and connected to Allah's Kalam, and you're learning from it, and you're making little changes, the islah, the reforms that you're bringing to your behavior, to your disposition, to your mind, all that helps in making you go through those situations. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ, and do not let the hatred or dislike of those, of any other people, to you, to make you swerve to wrong. Allah ta'dilu, that you swerve from justice. So don't make, if you dislike some people or anyone, don't resort to being unjust. I'dilu, be just. Huwa akrabu lit taqwa, that is closest to doing taqwa, next to piety. Wattaqullaha, and be mindful of Allah. Inna Allaha khabirum bima ta'malun, and Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. Wa'adallahu allazina amanu, the promise of Allah with those who believe is wa'amilu salihat, and those who correct their deeds. That's important. Those who believe and make reforms, make amends. Lahum maghfiratun wa ajrun azim, for them is maghfirat and big reward. So maghfirat is forgiveness with an opportunity. So every time the word maghfirat comes, it is not just forgiveness only, it is that you will be granted an opportunity next time so that you can correct it. So that is what maghfirat is. And when we ask Allah Ta'ala that, we've done wrong, that we have done some wrong, so please forgive us, then maghfirat means that you will be granted an opportunity next time, so that this time you've learned your mistake, you should not be doing it again. So that is the meaning of that. This time it's been forgiven, you'll get an opportunity, because unless you fix it, you will keep repeating the same mistake again and again. And we all know that, with our experience also, and through teaching children also, if you don't correct your child, if you don't change your ways, you will continue to repeat the same mistake over and over, and the consequences are not going to change. You're just bringing harm to yourself again and again. All right. Next is Surah 8, Ayat 60 to 66. Surah 8, Ayat 60. وَأُعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ. And prepare yourselves, make ready your strength to the utmost of your power. Jitni istataat hai, whatever capacity you have. وَمِنْ رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ. And including the steeds of war, the horses, जो उसमें रब्त पैदा करें. Turhibuna bihi, to strike terror into the hearts, adu wallahi wa aduwakum, into the hearts of those who are enemy of Allah and enemies and your enemies, wa akharina min dunihim, and others besides them. So it's for yourself. It's not just about a war situation. It's about life also, because we are fighting in our lives. We are not just stagnant and just living through it and cruising through it. Life is very dynamic, and you have to face situations. So you have to prepare to your capacity, and you have to get your horses ready, but hold them. And horses meaning, if you're ready, you're ready to fight, you're ready to face situations. So you have to be, making that arrangement, practicing. And enemies of Allah and your enemies are anything, who's going against you, anything that is opposing you. It doesn't mean like enemies in that sense that who are at war with you, but who are opposing you in our lives. So things against us. La ta'lamunahum, Allahum ya'lamuhum. You do not know about them, but Allah knows about them. وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ شَيْءٍ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And whatever you spend out of anything in Allah's way, يُوَفَّى إِلَيْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تُظْلَمُونَ, will be repaid to you, and you shall not be treated unjustly. So instantly it comes to, after preparation, whatever you spend from you. So you see the connection, that it's not talking about a war situation. It is your dynamics of life where you are facing difficult times, opposing times. You have to be ready for them and give out of what you have extra. So that will be again going into your favor. وَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسَّلْمِ فَجْنَحْ لَهَا. But if those opposing you, they incline towards peace, then you also incline. Laha, you also incline towards them. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ, and place your trust in Allah. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Indeed, He is all hearing and all knowing. So if there is anybody who is against you, anybody giving you a tough time, opposing you, and they come to peace, ceasefire, and they, hold nothing, then you're supposed to hold nothing against them. You're not required to carry on with that. So very peaceful. This is what religion, this is what Islam teaches. Islam means peace, that if somebody is at war or somebody is opposing you and standing against you, and you have to put your point across, then be ready for that. So you have to be having that ability to do what is required. But at the same time, if they don't want to fight you, then step back and let it be. So this is how, it's not that you are silently not even putting up a front to them. That is not required. That you are not even capable of giving them, a front to hold your ground. That isn't what we normally think, that we are so meek and we are so weak that we can be easily overwhelmed by anybody who comes. That shouldn't be the case. You have to be strong. You have to have your preparation. You have to have your capacity built to the level that you can be a strong front to them. But then at the same time, your purpose is not to fight, just to put them away. وَإِن يُرِيدُوا أَن يَخْدَعُوكَ. And if they intend to deceive you afterwards, فَإِنَّ حَسْبَكَ اللَّهُ. Then indeed Allah is enough for us. هُوَ الَّذِي أَيَّدَكَ بِنَصْرِهِ. He has strengthened you with his help, وَبِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and with the help of other believers. So it's very important to be connected to like-minded people, people who understand what you're going through, people who understand what you are facing in life, and so that they give you strength and support. Because this is how we get, we are able to stand on whatever, concept or whatever we are taking a stand on, if we have other people connected with us too. And then Allah's faith in Allah also gives us that strength. وَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ, and he has put affection, ulfat, between your hearts. لَوْ أَنفَقْتَ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. If you had to spend everything on earth that you have, مَا أَلْفَتْ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ, you cannot get that kind of bonding, that kind of closeness that you see amongst people who believe. So this is the kind of close bonding and affection and connection that believers have with each other. You can't buy that from anywhere. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ أَلَّفَ بَيْنَهُمْ. But Allah puts that ulfat, Allah puts that affection between them. إِنَّهُ azizun hakim. And indeed, Allah is exalted in might and wise. Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu hasbukallahu. O Prophet, sufficient is Allah for you. وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَكَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and those who follow you among the believers. So Allah is enough for the Prophet also, and for the believers also who follow the Prophet. Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu harridil mu'minina alal qital. O Prophet, rouse the believers to the fight. So qital is fight. So you are not to shy away to take a stand. So when it comes to a point, we are taught all the time that Islam is peace, so you don't even go to fight. That is not right. That is not true. If they are going to overwhelm you, if they're going to take over, if they're going to suppress you, if they're going to kill you, if they're going to do all the harmful things that on earth that they are planning to do, you're not going to just be like a sitting duck and do nothing. That is not what Islam means. So you have to defend yourselves. You have to stand up and you have to present a strong front so that you are not a meek nation or people or person, individual or anything. And the same thing goes on inside also in our minds as well. So if we get overwhelmed by our fears, by feelings, or by fear of an individual, then we have to work on ourselves. These things, we face these things, but then that means that when we're taking help from the book, we are taking help from Allah, we have to practice, again, small changes in our lives to build ourselves to a level when we can have enough confidence in ourselves and say what we want to say and say the right things and stand up for ourselves. And same thing we do for other people and as a nation as well. Iyakum minkum ishruna, because Allah says if there are 20 amongst you, sabiruna, constant people, yaghlibu mi'atain, they will overwhelm 200 of them. Wa iyakum minkum mi'atun, and if there are 100 of you, yaghlibu alfa minal lazina kafaru, they will overcome 1,000 of those who don't believe. So that is the level of strength that belief brings into us. What we have to do is we have to have enough belief in ourselves that we can do it. And that is what gives us the strength. So if it is, the number is just to give you a reference point that if there are 20 of you, they're as strong and solid with power as 200 of them. And 100 of you, more than, for 1,000 people, you can stand up to them. Those who don't believe, because they don't have that belief from Allah. بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ, because they are people who do not understand. Al-ana khaffafa Allahu ankum. And at this point in time, for the present, this is also like as we are reading, Allah is saying, but for now, Allah has made your task easy for you because Allah knows that we are not that strong. Khaffafa Allahu ankum. Allah has reduced, lightened your task. Wa alima anna fikum dafa. Because He knows that there is a weak spot. There is weakness in you. You're not yet strong. You don't have the capacity. فَإِن يَكُن مِّنكُم مِّئَةٌ صَابِرَةٌ. So if there are only 100 of you, persevering ones, constant ones, patient ones, يَغْلِبُ مِئَتَيْن. They will overcome 200 of them. So 100 will overcome double the number of people who may be standing against you. وَإِن يَكُن مِّنْ أَلْفٌ. And if there are 1,000 of you, يَغْلِبُ أَلْفَيْنِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They will vanquish, they will overcome 2,000 of those with Allah's permission. Wallahu ma'as sabirin. Allah is with those who do sabr. And sabr does not mean tolerating zulm. Sabr means that you are constant, you trust in the process, you trust in Allah's process, and you're waiting after you have done what you are required to do from your end. So sabr means that you have taken the actions that whatever Allah has guided you, you've done all that. Now you're going to wait for the result. Sabr doesn't mean that you just sit quietly, do nothing, and in the hope you expect that things are going to change. So whatever is required from your end, that has to be done. And after that, you wait for the result from Allah. Surah, same surah, ayat number 73 and 74. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. People who don't believe, they are actually protectors of each other. They are the ones who, we see that, like the house of cards, each one is protecting the other person because they know that if they don't support each other, it's going to collapse because it doesn't have a, strong foundation. It is not based on the right laws. So they know that whatever they're doing is wrong. So they support each other so that the wrong continues. And that we see all over the world. This is the way things are. Illa taf'aluhu. If you don't do the same, takun fitnatun fil ardi wa fasadun kabira. So Allah is saying that if you don't support each other, so believers, we feel that, we feel satisfied and strong in ourselves because we're doing the right thing. We don't have that burden on us that, we are accountable because we're not guilty. So we feel very relaxed about these things. Like Allah is saying that you must be protecting each other too. So believers have to be friends and protectors of each other. And if we don't do that, then Allah says that there will be fasad in the earth. There will be mischief, which is happening now. So why all this is happening? Because the unbelievers are together. They formed a party. And because they want to support each other, because if they don't support each other, they'll all collapse. The system will collapse. And we have to support also. We have to strengthen each other so that we can build a system against them so that they can not do the fitna and fasad that they are carrying out. Wallazina amanu wahajaru. And people who believe and migrate, wajahadu fi sabilillahi, and they fight in the way of Allah or strive in the way of Allah. So people who believe and migrate. So migration is from your current patterns, from your current beliefs. So migration is not just physical migration of shifting to another place. It is migration of your thoughts, your mindset, the paradigm shift that you experience when you are learning from Quran. So that shift and the striving in Allah's way, wallazina awaw, and people who give protection, wa nasaru, and help to those people, ulaika humul mu'minuna haqqa. These are the people who are believers in truth. So this is all that, this is the process that we go through. We believe, we migrate in our thoughts, then we strive in Allah's way, and then we give protection to others who are doing the same thing, and then we become helpers for them. So this is a community building that Allah is pointing towards, and connections that we all who believe in justice, who believe in equitable justice, and fair treatment for all, they are the ones who have to join together. Lahum maghfiratun wa rizqun kareem, and for them is maghfirat, forgiveness, and for them is noble, generous provision. So, good sustenance from Allah Ta'ala. Okay. So, this all discussion then tells us that when we think that we should just be lying low, playing small, or not thinking of putting up a fight because that is against Islam, that is wrong. So putting up a fight for wrong reasons is wrong, but putting up a defense for yourself and preparing yourself so that you are ready for situations when people try to overwhelm you, that is true Islam. You're not supposed to ignore this side also. And for that, you need to research, explore, just like we do for any other thing, any other training. So this mental stagnation and mental paralysis is what does not make us move forward and progressive, because we are stuck in that state of mind and we don't grow, we don't learn, we don't want to see it with fresh eyes, and we just have that idea in mind that this is what we're supposed to do, and we don't want to check it from Quran again. So we have to keep going back to Quran and seeing where it's wrong and where what we are doing is wrong, and where we need to, how we need to correct. We need to upgrade ourselves, learn communication, learn new ways of doing things, these tools, these gadgets, this is information age. Any problem we have, we can research on our gadgets, on our devices, and find solutions for that. What is a nice way of doing this? What is a good way of saying this? And try to manage our problems and conflicts. So, 40, Surah 40, Ayat 58. Surah 40, Ayat 58. وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْأَعْمَى وَالْبَصِيرُ. Not equal are those who are blind and those with sight. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and people who believe and make reforms and do deeds of righteousness. وَلَلْ مُسِيء, and the ones who are doing the wrong. قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ, and indeed it is little that you learn through admonition. So once you see things clearly, which we start seeing from the eyes that Allah gives us, the basara, the insights, you can't unsee. And when you see those things, then we are accountable to be changing our ways accordingly. So the blind, the ignorant, and the one with sight are not the same. So our accountability is based on how much knowledge we have, how much insights we have, how much wisdom we have received from Allah, and we have to use all these to serve Allah and for ourselves to live better life, because that is the purpose. And Surah 48, Ayat 17. Laysa alal ama harajun, and no blame is there on the blind. So if somebody doesn't know Like we may be seeing other people and maybe thinking that, oh, they're doing this wrong, or judging other people. Basically, that's not for us to do. Maybe they don't know. They don't know how to, what is right and what is wrong. So there is no blame on someone who is blind. Wala alal araje harajun. And there is no blame on the lame. Lame is again somebody who's spiritually not capable of doing something. Not everybody is given the same strength. Just like we see physically also, everybody doesn't have a strong body, everybody doesn't have a strong mind, doesn't have a strong spiritual sense. That's just the way things are. It doesn't have a strong intellect. Not everybody becomes a super smart individual. That's how it is. There are different gifts given to different people. So we are going to be tested and we are accountable for how we use the gifts and the strengths that we are given. Wala alal maride harajun. And there is no blame on someone who is unwell. وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. And whoever is obedient to Allah and His Messenger, يُدْخِلْهُ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. They will enter, they will be admitted to the gardens and beneath which rivers flow. So rivers are actually metaphorical terms, means the free thought process, good flow of your thought process without interruptions and without impediments. If you can have a peaceful state of mind, it means that your thought process is very easy flowing. And that is a state of Jannah, peaceful mind. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّى يُعَذِّبْهُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. And whoever turns back, whoever turns away after this, then they will face the punishment, which is grieving punishment, which is a punishment of sadness. So again, we understand that once you have the insights and you do not move forward to make the corrections, then you will face sadness. And that is when depression sets in. So we have to understand where this, depression comes in from. Depression comes in when you have the ability to do something, you have been gifted that, and you're not using it in the right way. So then we feel sad and we don't know, we try to point fingers at different things that we are sad because of this, or we can't even figure it out ourselves. But that's where we have to explore that there is probably something that we have the ability to do, and we don't know that we have to move on in a certain direction because our culture and our environment, our situations don't allow for that. But then we have to do it somehow. So we have to figure out, we have to then seek out ways of doing that, because otherwise we are going to be suffering with sadness for a longer time. And so there is kindness to those who don't have the ability, like we saw in this ayat, that who are blind, who are lame, crippled, or who are unwell. So Allah Ta'ala says that there is no blame on them. So kindness to those who don't have the potential, but those with ability and potential have to rise up. And the same way as we saw in Hazrat Musa's case, that he had to fight against Firaun. So he had to put up a fight, but he was weak. He didn't have a free, he had a speech impediment, but he was still given the task to go and give the message. So that example shows us that we have to then build ourselves, we have to train ourselves. And what did he do? He just went, gave the message, and then left it to Allah, because then Allah was supposed to give him the azab, and he just found a separate way to take his qawm and himself away from that. So this is the lesson for us, that whenever we are faced with a situation where we can't do anything because he could not overwhelm Firaun. So what he did was he just said what he had to say and then moved away and chalked another path out for himself and the believers. So that is where, when Allah helps and the sea is divided and they find a new way of being, new way of living their lives. So then Allah gives us also a new path to exist and to live. When we have done the deed, what we have done is that we have trained ourselves and we have told the person or in the, any system that we are not going to be serving you anymore. That is what we have to do. We have to stop serving that system. That is a declaration that we make, and then we move away from them, and Allah finds us another path. Surah 20, Ayat 77. And the same is, in today's world, if you see as a collective also, don't serve people, don't serve systems who are creating, causing harm, who are creating so much of oppression and suppression. You detach yourself from those people and situations, because you are going to be part of that system if you are standing with them or you are serving with them. So for people who are suffering because of others, because they have to be, doing the things that they don't want to do, so then please step aside. And yes, you'll have to give up your privileges. Yes, you'll have to give up whatever ease and comfort you have. But then you have to do something for the peace of mind. That is when you are a muhajir. That is when you're doing hijrat, migrating from that space, which may be a position of authority or power or money or anything, but it is making you do things against your soul and making you go against your soul and making you do the wrong things. So if you are a believer and you trust in Allah and you trust in Allah's process, then take that shift of faith and move away. And you say that you can't be part of this. And Allah will find you a way where you're going to have a better life also and a more peaceful way. So Surah 20, Ayat 77. وَلَقَدْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى Musa. And we sent an inspiration to Musa, an asri bi ibadi, that travel by night with my servant, فَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ طَرِيقًا فِي الْبَحْرِ يَبَسًا, and strike for them a way in the course, in the sea, in the dry land, through the dry course, sorry. So a way. So Hazrat Musa finds through the inspiration, and the same way Allah will give us also His guidance. Allah will send us the guidance to find another way of managing our ways and managing our things and managing the life. And la takhafu darakan wala takhsha, and don't be afraid of being overwhelmed by others, by Firaun basically, wala takhsha, and don't be afraid. So this is one example that we see that if you can't stand up to a big authority or power, then you have to move away from that and you have to detach yourself. And one thing is that we don't realize that we have the power within us, and that is what we are never told. But as collective, as people, when we unite, we have a lot of strength. And the same thing we are seeing that when people boycott something and when people take a stand for something, it puts a lot of pressure on the people who are doing wrong. We don't understand that because they, as individuals, we are weak. But when we are together, we are a big front and we are a strong force to reckon with. And that is what we have to understand as believers, that if we get together, we support each other and we stand for the right and we stand for justice, Allah will help us. And that is I think what we are required to do. And on personal levels is the same, and on collective level is the same. What we have to be fearful is that we are not doing anything wrong. This is Surah 6, Ayat 15. This should be our prayer, that while we are asking Allah for His mercy and for guidance and for His forgiveness, we hope we are on the right track. Surah 6, Ayat 15, and this is Allah says to the messenger, to the prophet, Qul, say, Inni akhafu in asaitu. Surah 6, Ayat 15. Inni akhafu, indeed I am afraid. In asaito Rabbi, if I would be disobedient to my Rabb. Azaba yawmin azim, that I will have to face the punishment of the big day. So even Rasulullah is saying that. So that should be our prayer, that we pray to Allah Ta'ala that we should be only afraid of making our Rabb angry with us. And if we do something of, something against what we have been told, we have to be obedient to him, serving Allah Ta'ala. And God forbid, we should not be doing anything against that. So in that spirit and with that intention, we have to keep our heart and mind open. We have to prepare ourselves. We have to build our capacity, get stronger with small corrective actions, and everything, wherever we face our fear, wherever we go, step ahead and move forward, we are actually building that capacity of faith in us. And then when faith increases, then we become stronger, and then we become connected. And that is when we have to stand up and fight against things in our around us, within ourselves, and then in the community, and then for the nation and for the humanity. It all is like just a same thing. It has the same rules, same principles, and it starts from within ourselves, because Allah does not change the state of a nation or a people unless they change what is within themselves. So our circle of control or area of influence is within ourselves. We start from there, we build it up, and we take it outwardly. And we can't do that outwardly unless we have done that work within ourselves. So we do the change, we become the agents of change, and we then gradually build it up to help others, to connect with others, help them also make those changes, and then stand up for the right reasons, for the right causes. And that is where we are going to get Allah's help also. You will be surprised in such cases, in such areas, instantly things happen in such a way that you are shocked and surprised how things turned around this way, because you are afraid and you are scared and you're just doing your little bit, but that little bit becomes so magnified that because Allah gives his help in that. And that's how things change, transform, and change. You see the good results out of it. So may Allah Ta'ala give us strength and ability and insights to learn and to help ourselves and to help everybody else also.